Calculations talk show. I'm Gary Johnson. Got a great guest, Andrew Minott, who is an author, concert promoter, a dad. Welcome to the show, Andrew. Let's get it popping.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you. Appreciate it.
I don't even know where to start, man, but I guess I got to start someplace. I don't know if I'm going to take you to a deep place or not, man, but I just want to find out. I know, let's just, woo.
Woo-wee.
All right, man. Relationships, what relationship with your father? How would you describe it?
Prior to his death, it got way better. Like, we became good enough that we could joke around. And you got to understand, prior to my 18th birthday, I've probably seen my father 5 times. You know, the first time I remember my grandmother was telling me that when I first saw him, I said, who is that man? I didn't know who he was. And maybe I was 6 years old. That's the first I remember saying I didn't know who he was. And then a little after that, I remember him hitting me, but we never had a good relationship at all. We didn't have one. It was like he was non-existent. And basically I remember when, which I never put in the book, I wrote him a letter just as I was about to leave high school at 16. I wrote him a letter about filing for my brothers and I, and he never responded back to me. And I heard he took the letter and took it around his neighborhood and said, see, my son gotta be begging me. I was like, how does that even make sense? That he's saying I'm begging him. I'm 16 years old. He's obligated to me. Wow. I was just flabbergasted by it. I was like, wow. I said, you know what? I don't need to say anything else to him. So it was very bad. I can say that. And I remember when my brother passed away in 2000, I didn't speak to him for like 2 years before that. So when I went to church, I saw him because I was the last one to actually be there because I just started a job with FedEx. And I went to Jamaica late and I saw him in the church. First time I'm seeing him in like 2.5 years. First time I'm seeing him, and I went to shake his hand and he hugged me. I was like, wow. I said, okay, you know what? You know, maybe tragedy bring us close together. So I was open for that. I was like, you know what? My brother passed away. You know what? Maybe we can build a relationship now. And I was good with that. And the next day I saw him and I was trying to talk to him, and then he was being very abrasive and stuff. And he started acting crazy, and I cursed him out. I can't even talk the things I said, but I cursed him out so bad. I blasted him so bad, you know, and I didn't speak to him for 7 years after that. 7 years went by, I never spoke to him, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Now he's passed away, you mentioned.
Yes.
And the first thing I was thinking about was, is there any forgiveness? You know, I mean, forgiveness is a huge word and concept. How did you, because you said toward the end it got better, right?
Yes, ironically, life comes around full circle because I said, when I cursed him out back then, I said I would never speak to him again. I said, I don't need him. I don't need anything from him. So his wife passed away, and I went to the funeral, and we never really spoke still. I just went there to pay respect because my brother and sister were there. And after the funeral, the next day, I stayed at his house and I started cleaning his yard up. I was like raking, and he was looking at me. I cleaned his house up and he was looking at me like he was shocked that I did that. I was like, and he asked me, say, you always like this? I said, of course, this is what I always do. I'm ex-military. And I did that, and he moved, because he lived in Port Charlotte at the time. That's West Florida, close to Sarasota. And then after that, he sold his house and he moved down closer to South Florida in Boca, because I live in Coconut Creek. At the time, I stayed in Fort Lauderdale. And I still wasn't really speaking to him. I say like, hey, and because he was getting old and he needed me. And I was like, you know what? I went by the house, helped him out, drop food off, stuff like that. And because he and I wasn't really on good terms, he saw my wife. My wife met him and took him to eat lunch. And he said to her, I have a proposal for you. And she was like, what? And she said, why don't you talk to Andrew? He said, no, I want to talk to you. And said, I'm getting older now, and I know you guys are gonna buy a house, so you can buy a house and I'll help towards that, and then I'll move in with you guys. And when she told me, I was like, wow. I couldn't, there's nothing that you could tell me that would have happened. And I was like, and as mad as I was open, I was receptive to it, because like the forgiveness part, I never forgot, but I forgive in that sense of, you know what, especially like Black men, and especially men growing up in the Caribbean, we don't know how to show love. And writing this book taught me that. And I never understood why, because a lot of my friends, they have the same situation, like they never saw their fathers and they were never around. And we perpetuate that same cycle in the sense of we become fathers and we never show the love to our children. And it goes on and on and on, because I remember when my sons were born, my first son, I remember in the hospital, and I looked up and I prayed and said, God, I will never let my son think of me the way I think of my father. Because at the time when my son was born, I wasn't speaking to my father at all. I wasn't speaking to him. And I said, I will never let him think that way. And I was always there for my sons, no matter what it was. And that's why when I gotten divorced, I fought to get them back. And I fought them, and I was a single father. And even when I was married, I remember coming home from work. I worked nights. I would get home like 4 o'clock in the morning. And then, you know, like around 5, the kids start getting up. I would get them, take care of them, bathe them, get ready for school while my wife was sleeping. And maybe I felt the need that I needed to be there all the time. And that's what I did. I was always there, no matter what, always tried to be there. So he moved in with us, and he lived with us for 4 years until he passed away year before last. So for the whole time, we were in the same house together, and we coexist, we joke around, we laugh. In the book, like there's a picture with he and I, and we just like, I used to laugh with him, and he looked at me like, huh. I know sometimes he looked at me, and the look he has in his face is like, he's like probably saying, man, I could have done a better job as a father. And I know, but he would never admit it. I just know, because when I said he would never, the stubbornness, I know he would never admit it. And that's why I try as a father, I never, no matter what it is and how much pride, if I'm wrong, I will admit that I'm wrong. I said, I'm sorry. I have no problem saying I'm sorry, because it's the way to bridge the gap. Because they say after pride comes shame. And man, it's a heavy burden to carry when you don't have a relationship with your child. It's a heavy burden to carry, believe me.
It's interesting you say that. My father, I grew up with a father in the home, but my father didn't have a father. And so he was passed around, you know, from different relative to different relative. And so as I got older and I started understanding his story, he was really, really working hard to make sure that he was around and not like his father, but he didn't have a role model. So he really didn't know how to parent and be a dad or father.
Exactly.
Anybody can be a dad. It takes a special person to be a father.
Exactly.
So he didn't really know that. But as I look older, look over the years, you know, he made a monumental effort to make sure that he was in our lives the best way he knew how to. And I think that's probably, I'm not a doctor, you know, you can help me. I kind of feel like I'm in a therapy session here. That's probably the best. That's probably why I do what I do for my kids and grandkids, because it's important. But as I was listening to you, here's another question. How important is it to hug your son?
It's very important. I don't remember growing up. I can honestly say that I don't remember being hugged by even my grandfather. My grandfather raised me, basically my grandparents, because my father wasn't there and my mom was there in some regard, but I don't remember being hugged by like a father figure. I never remember seeing that. And I think back, writing the book, I was thinking, I said, damn, I can't remember. I can't remember my grandfather ever saying to me that, I love you. I don't remember thinking back, and I think back really long and hard about that. I can't remember him even saying that. Like, and my wife joked around with me and said, the reason why, because you were never loved when you were growing up. I used to joke about it, but it's funny, but it's actually true, because the same thing you said about your father, my father said he was passed around also, and that's why he was so bitter. He was so angry, like he was angry about so many things, because the couple of times I remember seeing my grandmother, my father's mother, when she passed away, went to the funeral, because I was in Jamaica at the time. I was pretty young. And he was the only one, all his siblings were there except him. And someone said that he said, I don't like her, so I'm not going to the funeral. And I could never understand that, because normally boys are so close to their mothers.
Yeah.
And he was like, and I remember after he and I got close, and he was like, he just pushed his face up and like, very like rebellious about that, because he said they never cared for him. His father sent him to the country, and his mother was never really there. And he was raised by his uncles and cousins and all that. And he still have a bitter resentment towards that, because up until weeks before he passed, I was talk about that. And this is going back maybe 70 years, and he was still bitter and mad about it. I was like, wow, it stays with you. Your childhood, and a lot of people don't understand that. Trauma that we face in our childhood, it stays with us. It really does. And as fathers, we have to like understand that, you know what, we have to be there for our kids, and, show love, show emotion. We have to do that, because they grow up with no emotions either. And then the cycle is perpetuated.
Cycle continues.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's one of the things I try to do is just break that cycle. This cycle of getting, for example, when I was a kid, getting whippings, just getting whooped for stuff.
Yeah.
I grew up and I'm like, you know what? If I ever become a father, there are other ways for me to instruct and discipline my sons without taking a belt and whipping them. Because all I'm showing them is that I'm bigger than you and I can beat you. There are other ways. And I've never put the belt to any of my kids. Never had to. I just made it my business to find another way. So yeah, the cycle's terrible. I want to talk more about the book though, because I got a two-part question for you.
Yes, sir.
Why was it important for you to write the book, which you've kind of given us some lead there, but did you have anything else to prove? Did you have something to prove in writing the book?
Well, as you say that, today, a friend of mine that I've known since I was maybe 10 years old, he texted me and he said, man, I wrote a book. I don't like to read, but I picked it up and I couldn't put it down. He said, I'm on chapter 7. He said, man, it's written like a movie. You should write. And I just started laughing. I said, man, that was never my intention at all. And he said to me, you prove yourself wrong in then, huh? And I said, yeah, because writing the book, like when I started doing it, it was like therapy for me, because going through it, and it was very therapeutic writing, and I got really emotional. Like one of the reasons why, and Mr. Ellerby he was on me like, when are you gonna finish it? When are you gonna finish the book? I was stalling because I was reading it, proofing it, and I got so emotional about a lot of things in it. And I was like, man, do I really want the world to know this? I was like, man, I can't do this. And because I'm very private, extremely private. And so my life is out there now. It's like, cat's out the bag, and I was like, man, and then I said, you know what? Maybe this can help other Black men, because we get stereotyped like we're deadbeats, we're not there, all these things. And I said, maybe if I can just help one person, like Malcolm X made a statement, I can't quote him like, but he when all the Muslims were following him, and I guess someone made a comment and said, so one man shouldn't have that much power. And he said, it's not about, it's easy for 1 million people to follow you that share your same point of view. But one person who thinks you're full of it and you change their mind for them to think differently is a great accomplishment. And I look at it like, if I could influence one Black man in America, one man anywhere in the world, to start thinking differently and say, you know what, I need to be there for my kids. We could change this whole society. They said most of the men in prison are men that grew up with our fathers.
Mhm.
You know? And I said, maybe if one person changed your mind and say, you know what, he inspired me that, you know what, I'm gonna be a better father. And another person, and it goes on, my job is done. It's a heavy burden to bear, but if I can accomplish that, it's a job well done. But it was something that I need to get out, because my experiences was, it was a long road for me, being there for my sons, and by all means, no matter what it takes, I was gonna be there, no matter what.
Well, if not you, then who? Because I can tell you, this book of yours, and I started reading, I'll be honest, I haven't finished it yet, but I started reading it. You are doing the work for others. And I think that's how you need to look at it, you know? I'm always amazed at social media and the internet, because it's the great equalizer.
Yeah,
And so one person can make a difference. And so there are people who are going to watch this interview, and all they got to do is click and forward that link to somebody else and say, bruh,
yeah,
you need to watch this. You know, so
yeah,
yeah, you're making a
absolutely,
difference. You're making a difference for
absolutely,
sure.
absolutely. Because, a matter of fact, I was at the park a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of my friends, like, we get together, we play like soccer and stuff, and a lot of stories, I didn't even realize it. They were talking about, one friend said he didn't know he had a kid until the kid was like 10 years old. And he was like, the mother's saying, you have a son? He's like, what? What are you talking about? He said, it's not mine. And then he did DNA and he proved, and he was like, so why you didn't tell me this? Yo, she was mad and whatever it is. And I'm not bashing women at all, but sometimes when they get emotional and make emotional decisions, they hurt the child. Because I remember with my ex-wife, and I used to tell her this, I said, look, you can't hurt me. No matter what you do, there's nothing you can do to hurt me. I'm already grown. I've accomplished so much in my life. The only people who get hurt is the kids, because they're young, they're very influential, they don't understand life. They're gonna get hurt. Me, you cannot hurt me. So it's best you do things that beneficial to the child.
Right.
And I always say that to even friends that said, man, yo, you know that? And I said, you know what? I have to reach out. You have to form some gap, what it is. Even to this day, a friend of mine in Jamaica, his son lives in Boston, and his son ran away a few days ago because his mother can't control. He's like 16, his mom can't control him, and he controls him on the phone from Jamaica. His son listens to him while he's on. He said, look, you got to go home. You got to do this. He said, Dad, I can't deal with this no more. He said, look, you have to do that. And the words from his, he said he changed his son's life, that he went home, and he's 3,000 miles away.
That speaks to the relationship that his son still calls him.
Exactly.
You know, that's great. You know,
Exactly.
that is great. So what are you most proud of?
Wow. I'm proud that I accomplished that with my kids, at least, except one, which it's in the book. I'll go over that a little bit more, but both of my sons, like from my previous marriage, we were together after I got divorced, and they were with their mom for like almost 2 years. I fought back and I got them. So I shared custody. Initially, I was sharing custody, then I got full custody of them. So, and that's when I started working only part-time, and I was doing the music that basically I didn't have to leave. I was there all the time at nights. I gave up opportunities to tour, go on European tours, and I couldn't do it because of my sons. I had a great job to do as a vendor to travel all over the country, and great job, like a 6-figure job. I turned that down because my sons. And looking back, I don't regret that. So my greatest accomplishment would be like, I was always there for my sons, because they can look back, and when they have kids, they can always say, you know what, at least the cycle is broken with me. They can never say, my father didn't do this, so you know what, bump that. And they will say that. But I have another son that's also in the book that we don't have a relationship because of his mom, in the sense of she wanted us to be together after we had broken up, and it just wasn't right. When you read the book more, you'll understand more about it.
Oh, I'm gonna finish it this week.
So, and basically he grew up with the knowledge that I didn't want him or I didn't care, but she basically cut off all communication with me, changed his name and everything, you know, when he was 4 years old. So they lived in Michigan. I tried to reach out, email, phone number, everything was done. Nothing was, I tried to do everything. I tried to reach out to her sister on Facebook. And when I reached out, she blocked me after that. I tried everything and I couldn't get in touch. Then 10 years later, I got a text. I got a text from her. And so it's so ironic that 10 years later, my number is still the same number that she had my number, but her number was changed. She now lived in New Jersey and his name is changed. He doesn't have my last name anymore. So I'm like, wow. And then he's mad at me, and it's like he's not willing to even listen because he's getting a version of me from his mother who's mad at me. Because when I knew it was gonna be bad, the first time when I saw him as a 16-year-old, and I said to him, you know, I still have the same number from 2005. You were born in 2004. I last saw you in 2007. And my number has been the same number since 2005. He looked at me and said, what does that mean? And when he said that, I was like, you know what? He has his vision of this, and it's gonna take a long time to break it. Because if I'm saying, you said I wasn't there for you, but the same number is, so if your mom had just pick the number and call and give you the phone, you could talk to me.
Phone
But
works both ways.
work both ways, man. So that's the burden now I have to bear. And I'm in the process now of rebuilding that relationship. So it's a work in progress right now. So that's a work in progress, but I'm not gonna give up. I'm still gonna fight for it and, you know, see where it leads.
Wow. There's something I want to read from the book. I want to make sure I quote you
Yeah.
carefully from the book. I don't think I need any glasses here. Here we go. Today, I am writing this book with help because I needed to get it all out so that I can live the rest of my life like it's the best of my life. For my children, sure, but definitely for me. Can you say more about that?
Wow. I remember someone also read that part and they were like, it was a young lady and she started tearing up and she made me get emotional too. I was like, wow.
It stuck with me. That's why I pulled it out.
Yeah, it was deep because I knew I needed to get these words out because, like I said, I'm a very private person. So with the help, Mr. Kevin Taylor, when he said, you gotta be open and honest. To capture this moment, you have to be open and honest about everything. And I was like, okay, so I'm writing it that I can actually see myself and let go of the prison I built myself in, because I won't lie, I was bitter in the sense of my father not being there. And then me having this burden to carry, to be there for my sons, when it's easier to be like, you know what, let their mother have them. You know what, let whatever happens, happens. My father did it, so why can't I do it too? So I could have done that, and it was such a heavy burden. I said no. And for myself, I had to like get it out, because it was therapy for me, to be honest. So by writing this, I got to understand that, you know what, I get to release this prison that I've built in my head, and release all this stress and everything that comes with it, and understand that, you know what, maybe I can relax. Maybe I can finally breathe and know that, you know what, I can live my life. I can basically express myself and be free.
Wow. Read up. That's what I was thinking. So you talked about this earlier, but you've got 3 boys and a girl.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Relationships, from what I could tell, except with the exception of one, is pretty good, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, my oldest sons live with me right now.
Oh, okay.
And basically, you know, it's like, my oldest son was in the military. He became, he was a great basketball player, but for some reason, he never wanted to pursue that. So he joined the Navy like what I did. And my other son, he's into promotions like I did, and
Yep.
just one of those things. So basically, when COVID hit, they basically moved in with me after the COVID happened. And pretty much, so we've been close, you know, no matter what, like they were there at my book launch. If I said I need this, they're there for me. If I was to have an issue, they would ready to be like, step up. I'm like, no, I'm good, you know. So we're very, very close. You know, we have a great relationship, my sons. My daughter, she's just 4 years old. She softens me up. She's the one
That's a
that
good age, man. That's touch your heart.
she, woo, woo, man, oh man. Yeah, she the only girl. So she
Yeah.
totally softens me up with everything. And my other son, that he's 19, the one that I'm trying to build a relationship with, it's ongoing. It's an ongoing process. So
Process. Yeah.
yeah, it's ongoing. So I've not given up. I'm hoping one day he like understand. He's in college right now. So hopefully one day I'm hope to like we can get to like really get together and sit and talk and express ourselves about this. But other than that, you know what? Hey, life give us lemon, we make lemonades, right?
Yeah. What else is important for you to share with other fathers of Black boys, or just fathers in general? And we have a large percentage of women that visit our online magazine. And so what kind of advice or knowledge or pearls of wisdom would you share with them?
For fathers in the whole, I want to say this: be patient, um, be intuitive, listen. You know, like learn to listen. Like they said, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth that would listen twice as much as we speak. Listen to your children, because growing up, I remember I couldn't speak on adults. Like if my grandparents were speaking, I said, "Shut up, boy, be seen and not be heard." So, and I never had a forum like as a child. So we grew up like very like, you know, like timid and scared to actually like speak. So I know a lot of, especially Black fathers, they have the same mentality that we tend to like be bullies. Like, you know, I go, because when I used to do like concerts, like back in the early 2000s, I used to visit schools and see kids, like I talk to kids, because I have a foundation that was for underprivileged and abused kids.
Right.
Because I know how it is with like when kids can't express themselves. So the advice I would say, just be patient and just learn. I know it's an ego-driven thing, especially with men and their sons, because I remember this friend of mine, his son was like 14, and he was talking to his son reckless. I remember I said, yo, why are you doing that? Yo, that's why you gotta raise boys. Yo, you don't want them to grow up to be no punk. And I said, yo, you can't say that. And he was always hard on his son. I said, yo, you can't do that. And funny enough, his son got in trouble the first time. His son played football, and it was an all-star football practice that was going on. And I said to him, let's go watch a practice, man. Man, forget that. I said, come on, you gotta support your son. Man, I want to do that. And I said, look, you gotta do that. Yo, and he would curse the kid's mom out. I said, look, it's not about the mom anymore. It's about you and your son. And the craziest thing happened that day when we were supposed to go to the practice. We never went. That son left the football practice with four of his friends, drove to a house and broke into a house and got caught and got locked up. So his football career blew up. He was an all-star. He was on pace. D1, a bunch of D1 schools give him offers, all that went out of drain. And I said to him, if we had gone to that practice, he wouldn't have had the time to leave to go break into that house. And he was like, oh, hey. I said, look, don't matter what you say. And that son and my sons are friends. And he said to them, because like a couple of weeks ago, my son was saying, he said, man, if my father was like your father, man, my life would have been so different, because your father cared. My father just never give a damn. All he cared about was making money. And he just like, yo, you know what? I don't care about that and that. I was like, and the impact that he could actually say that. And he's grown. That kid, he's not a kid, he's a grown man, because he's like 32 years old now. And he can actually say that. And that goes back, what, 13, 14 years. And he reflected on the moments that his father didn't show the love to him that I showed to my sons. And my sons they're not soft or nothing like that, believe that. But it's just the mentality that they have. And that advice, man, is like, you gotta be there for your sons, man. It's like, no matter how much pride you may have and think that, you know what, yo, I gotta go them tough. They gotta be rough, and nah, you ain't gotta be like that. They'll have time to do that when they get older. They need compassion. They need all these things that a loving family can give to them.
Nurturing, they need that.
Nurturing, they need that. No matter what it is, they need that. Because if they don't get it from home, they're gonna get it from somewhere else. You know?
Yeah, raise them to be decent human beings.
Exactly.
You know? Be kind,
exactly.
be caring.
Exactly.
And you got to make the sacrifice, because it's not about you at this point. It's about molding their lives, because they're impressionable.
Yeah, and no knock on women. I take this that I don't want to get misconstrued, like knocking women, but in all honesty, no, and I hope women don't take this wrong, but no woman can teach a boy how to become a man. You know, you can raise a son, absolutely, you can do that. No issue at all with that. But the integral parts about a boy becoming a man, it takes a man to do that.
Yeah, the intangibles, yeah.
The intangibles, yeah. Women, tons of women raise sons and they become successful. Yes, so be it. But they have to get that other intangibles from another person, from another man, whether it's in the streets. You can listen to even Tupac's song when Tupac sang about mama, when he said he hung out with the drug dealers and all that, because he needed that nurturing from another man from somewhere else. So he got it from, no matter where, he had to get it from somewhere else. So if you as a man can be there and nurture your son, it's a battle won, you know? So that's just what it is, you know? So sometimes, and a lot of times, mothers tend to overcompensate, because I've seen it, I've experienced it. And then later on, then the sons start acting up. They're like, oh, you know what, get your father. Because it's the same reason when my friend, his son ran away, because the mother like, I can't control him anymore. I can't control him. So come get your son. So why didn't you call me when he was 6, 7, 8 years old? Why you gotta wait until he's acting up and be the point where it's that bad now that I gotta intervene at this point,
Wow. Man, Andrew, this has been like a master class, brother, on parenting. But
I know,
it's neat,
man.
but it's needed, I'm like I said, I quit my job early on when my boys were 4 and 7, because not that they were in trouble, we were in a stable relationship and still are, but I just really felt that I wanted to be there for them. Um, at those practices and taking them to school, and I just kept missing out. I felt like on some special moments in their lives. And
Yeah,
today I have a good relationship. Now I'll tell you now, I don't care how old they get, 1 or 2 of them still going to be in your pocket. Okay. But that's good.
exactly. That is true. That is true. Absolutely.
But that's okay. As long as they're on the straight and narrow, because I know it's rough out here. And if I can help, I will continue to help. As long as you don't end up being a knucklehead, I will help you.
This is true. And
Yeah.
boys surely know how to do that.
Yeah, they do. So, hey, any final thoughts before we close out?
Basically, I thank everybody that basically support the book. I surprised myself because reading it over and over, I surprised myself. I say that much. And the support is tremendous. I won't deny that, because like right now it's #1 new releases in the Caribbean and in Latin literature. #1. I was like, when I told Mr. Ellerby, he was like, wow. I was like, it's just one of those things. And I'm really thankful and grateful for the support and everything else that comes with it. Like I said, I proved myself wrong that it's done this well so quickly, and I'm really thankful for that. So basically, and everybody can go on Amazon.com and find the book, and all my social media handles are there. Drew Minott on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram. It's all the same, at Drew Minott, DREWMINOTT.
We're going to put all that on our print feature, and we're going to make it easy for people who even have a remedial level of skills to mouse click
Yeah,
and
it's pretty
get
simple.
that book delivered the next day from Amazon. Andrew, I can't thank you enough, man. This is a subject that's really deep and near and deep to my heart. So thank you very much for being on the show.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. I really
All
appreciate
right.
it. Thank you.